Warning, the following audio has a lot of cursing.
Welcome to the Cerberus podcast. My name's Sam, also Cthulhu. With me today I have Ethan, also known as Kestrel, and Tucker, also known as Wolfman. All of us are from Cerberus Tactical Airsoft. Today we want to talk about MILSIM games versus recreational games. The first note I want to make on MILSIM versus recreational that everyone forgets, because they see the videos, they see the pictures, and they want an experience, but they got to remember this. There's a definite difference in price when you play recreational games versus MILSIM games. In your guys' experience, because, well, first off, Tucker, I know you've had more MILSIMs under your belt than Ethan here. Mm-hmm. How many have you had so far?
MILSIMs?
Yeah, can you name them all off?
Homeland First, Irene, Road Wars.
It's a more of an enhanced specialty game than a MILSIM, because
full-blown MILSIM, I've been to, so Homeland, Irene, and Broken Dagger. Those have been the three main ones that I've done. Everything else, I guess, would more or less be kind of considered a rec game, or more intense rec game, more rules, more things going on.
Yeah, because like I went to the Michigan-Ohio game. I didn't consider it MILSIM, even though it was more enhanced. It's just the things that are available to make the experience feel a MILSIM weren't there. Not their fault, it's just not by design. Mm-hmm. So, and you, Ethan, which games have you done?
The only real MILSIM would probably be Broken Dagger. And
Third Ghost.
The Third Ghost, yeah. Okay. But I've also done the Drug Wars and other minor ones. The Wounded Warrior at Blasking.
Yep, we did Blasking.
Yeah.
Which we still need to go back to.
We do, yeah.
It's a great place with a lot of good people.
It sucks that we couldn't have done it this year.
I know. Well, we got bogged down with all of the WMIA stuff. But you made it to your first MILSIM.
Yeah.
So that's a change. And now that you're all set with your money-wise on gear and guns, you can use all that extra funds you've reserved for your guns to go to stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, for price, has it come up to you guys where price really affected your decision on going to a MILSIM? Where
I think because Homeland and Irene were, I think what was it, 200 for Homeland, because that was our first one flying cause.
Yeah.
And then
because they have a line clause kind of veteran membership thing where once you go to your first game, then you get a discounted price because they want you to come back. They love having you and stuff.
So Homeland was 200, and then Irene, I think, was better than 180. Now, the interesting part is that with Third Coast was like 75
for the pre-order.
Yeah,
it's the early adopters.
Yeah,
yeah.
So it was interesting because Third Coast was half of what Irene and Homeland were.
Yeah.
But like Homeland Broken Dagger, I thought was of all the MILSIMs, I had the most fun.
Yeah, definitely a lot about it.
And it wasn't so much a huge area, and you were moving here, and it was like you were definitely more. There was definitely more realism, I guess you could say, with Irene and Homeland, where the Broken Dagger, it was you were never really out of the fight, I guess you could say. Homeland and Irene, sometimes you found yourself like just pretty much just like moving through stuff that you would not even see anyone.
Yeah.
But like Broken Dagger, they kept kind of everything somewhat condensed, so you were constantly like in it in some way, shape, or form, and you knew what your objectives were or whatnot. Sometimes with Irene or Homeland, we would get separated and we wouldn't know where anyone was at.
Right.
So then we're wandering through this big training center and trying to find people.
Yeah.
So, but that's different. You've got flying claws and so they just kind of do things a little differently.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ethan? Because you've had a different set of priorities because of a lot of life stuff that you had going on where you couldn't go with us because whether it was job or It was just ambitions that you were trying to pursue.
You mean being a shekel-grabbing Jew?
Yeah, exactly.
No, definitely price is a huge part of my decision making. That and distance. I don't know. I gotta feel like I'm really gonna get my money's worth for it. Otherwise, I'm not gonna really want to go. Like, even if everybody else is going, if it's like I don't know, $200 just seems like a lot for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I also don't get paid that much at where I work.
True.
But, you know.
And, I mean, if you don't have vacation time,
right,
you're taking time off and it's unpaid.
Right.
So
you got that opportunity cost going on. So you really gotta for me, it's gotta be worth it. I gotta know what I'm getting for my money, and testimonies from other players and other stuff really helps with that.
Yeah.
And videos and all that good stuff. But when it's below $100 for just the ticket, I mean, usually you can be pretty sure it's going to be all right, and it's a safe bet. Because if it sucks, well, it was only less than $100, and you're not really losing out. But when it's like 200 plus, then it's like, you know.
Yeah. Okay. When you see these high prices and you see the event quality of the character of the players, do you feel you can notice because of that price gap that certain players that can't afford it aren't able to go? Do you think that's affected the quality of players at the events, where you can see some people that get a little butthurt on elitism issues with not having the right gear, things like that? Do you feel you actually see that at the fields, or you feel it's actually the best people who want to play airsoft at a different level are all willing to work together to have a better experience?
Yes, I would agree with that. As far as MILSIMs go, your point as far as, you're putting more into it. So for the most part, you already kind of know what you're getting into. A rec game, it's kind of, for the most part, it's like you start at a certain point and then you just run at each other. That type of thing. Whereas with MILSIMs, there's more to it. You're doing different things. And, you've got guys that are now committed to doing that type of thing. So for the most part, there's less goofing around. There's less, just some silly stuff you see out on a rec game. You got a guy that's running around with just two pistols, shooting at people. Yeah. So, but you don't really see any of that really in MILSIMs, at least not the ones I've been to.
Right.
It's more real. It's more of that realistic military experience. Whereas rec games, it's just kind of I paid $10 for the day, so I'm going to goof off. It's very easy to come to that conclusion.
Yeah. What about you, Ethan? For doing that first MILSIM years, Broken Dagger, did you see a noticeable difference in the conduct of players at the MILSIM versus all the rec games you played?
Absolutely. I mean, by nature, it's going to be a lot different than rec game players, but it's my personal observance that there are douchebags everywhere.
Right.
And price isn't going to be a hindrance to them. But I mean, as far as it's concerned, the MILSIM should have a different level or caliber of player, where they are working together and they're all objective based and they're all there for the experience.
Next, talking about locations, do you feel with MILSIMs as premium events and they get the better AOs that they can sometimes make backyard games obsolete? Or do you feel that even with MILSIMs, there's still a value to a rec game?
Oh, I definitely think there's value to rec games. Rec games, you're trying out new gear, you're trying out new stuff, figuring out, hey, even if you're new to airsoft, it's definitely good because you don't know if you want to be a sniper, you don't know what you want to do. Rec games are good to kind of figure that out. So I think rec games, everyone, at least when they're starting out, they need to be doing those just so they, one, they can figure out too if they even want to take it to the next level. They might just enjoy doing rec games and be set with that. So I don't think that rec games are obsolete. I think they, they serve a purpose, and I think people are going to treat it differently. So some people might just try stuff out. And they're like, hey, this is what I want to do. I don't want to spend $200 to go do lion claws when they do some backyard stuff with friends.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, rec games, definitely not obsolete. They are great for just like the weekend where you cannot drive 6 hours to go down to wherever
Right.
and spend 2 days on an event. They're great for, well, I can drive to my local field. It's only at most an hour or two away, and I can have fun for the day for a pretty low price. And again, yeah, it's great for testing out new gear, figuring out what you want to do, and if you even want to go to a MILSIM. But it's also great just to decompress, have fun with your friends, and just, relax. Because I know I don't always take rec games seriously. I'll run around with a claymore and pop it open on you as I burst into a room yelling, and everybody has a good time.
Right.
Except for maybe Skunk, who I scared the crap out of.
Yeah, I know. And Skunk is for his age and size of a guy that he is one of the best attitudes of a guy for playing.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially being a veteran too.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't get put off by it at all.
No.
He loves going to MILSIMs. He doesn't feel the separation because it's not a real gun shooting real rounds. He feels the brotherhood from all the other veterans that play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool to have him love rec games just as much as the next kid.
Absolutely.
There's also, with locations, the size of participation. With rec games, you can have between. We've tried it. We've done it rec game with 8 people.
Yeah.
And I've had rec games where we did it with 90.
Yeah.
And then you jump to a MILSIM, and you're going up to minimum 100 players per side.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes there's multiple sides.
Yeah, and then sometimes there's a third force. Like when we did Homeland, there was green, tan, and then a civilian group, and the civilian group was a floater. They could turn on you, it didn't matter. They didn't have any reasoning. And especially with Bubba, they definitely would have turned on you on a dime because he loved it. It was awesome. I love playing Homeland. That was cool. Now for you guys on these locations, there's a noticeable amount of danger that comes with a lot of the specialty AOs. A lot of places can be like for Lion Claws when they went into that Packard plant for Irene, this last Irene individual, and it's not their fault. You signed the form, you signed your consent form, you knew what you're getting into. Yep. It's a partially condemned Packard plant, and a guy ended up stepping on like a 4-inch nail and went clean through his boot and foot, and he was out for the day. Yeah. I've personally gotten injured, I think, twice now at MILSIMs. And then whatever else happens to anybody else, I mean, you got rusty metal, you got concrete from broken buildings, things like that. Do you feel that this should you be prevented for your own personal safety from going to these events? Do you feel this is directly related to the age that's allowed at these events? Usually the youngest is 16. Do you think it could go any younger? Or do you feel 16 should be the minimum? Because there are certain, I want to say, American MILSIM, I believe, has allowed younger players with consent through parents, and then they directly met the individual and then allowed them if they were younger than the minimum required age. Do you feel that there's a minimum age based off of safety that you need to be able to handle yourself?
That type of stuff is part of what your experience is. You're going to these places, you're doing this type of stuff where the real rangers, this is stuff that they train at, the same areas that they train.
Yeah.
And, you're paying a lot more for it. You're signing waivers, insurance, and all that other stuff. You've got to understand what you're getting into. And, unfortunately, stuff happens. But, something could accidentally just happen in a rec game. Sometimes you've got pallets and stuff people are setting up to put on, trees as cover. all it takes is one to get knocked over, and you've got nails that are visible, and something could happen like that too.
Yeah.
I just think as far as MILSIMs go, they're trying to give you that event that you're in a destroyed area, or an area that's been a lot of conflict. That's part of it. And they can't even they can't really search every inch of the field and prevent everything.
Yeah.
So accidents happen regardless. I just think maybe a MILSIMs, because they're larger, and trying to make it more real. It's something a little extra you have to work.
I think for an age requirement, definitely. I mean, there's definitely maturity that comes with age, but it's, again, on an individual basis. But 16 is a good baseline. I mean, if you bring someone in who's young like that, you're hopefully bringing them with a team of older people who are more responsible and can watch out for that person.
Yeah.
But, or if they come alone, you're grouping them with a squad that will be able to take them in and teach them and make sure they're not being complete morons. And as far as safety's concerned, life is dangerous. You can walk down the street and get hit by a car. That's life. So accidents happen. That's what insurance is for. And to a point, you're responsible for your own safety. I know for Broken Dagger, they actually roped off a few sections of buildings because there were no guardrails or stairs weren't technically wide enough or whatever.
Yeah.
And they didn't allow you to play on those areas. But there was still tons of places where you could potentially go wrong. I remember Dan was hopping up on the rail on the top of that building. And I was watching his video, and every time he'd poke his head over, I'd be like, oh, get down, get down, get down.
Yeah. No,
Please don't fall.
No,
don't slip.
Like that one tall building that we really favored.
Yeah.
There was stairways through a very tall portion of that building where if you went over the rails, you're dropping 30, 60 feet.
Yeah, you're done.
So, and it's on concrete, so I mean, you can be wearing a brain bucket all the day, but most of y'all aren't wearing a real one.
No.
And even then, your neck's not going to survive.
Nope. So yeah, it's definitely, you take care of yourself, you make sure you aren't being an idiot. And for the most part, you're going to be safe. And for the other times, there's insurance. At least there should be.
Cool. Next up is a lot of the rules and regulations. There's a very distinct set of rules and regulations for recreational games and MILSIM games. Is the difference. First thing about MILSIMs versus rec games is they next require all guns use mid-capacity magazines, except for support weapons. They can still use their box mags that are electric, but for all assault, all riflemen, if you're also the specialty for medic, which is just another rifleman, specialty for the grenade carriers, another rifleman, and then bolt actions. You get what I'm saying. Do you feel that this requirement causes issues in the community for people trying to play MILSIM, or do you think it's an acceptable cost to purchase aftermarket magazines for your primary so that you can participate in this game in a way that they feel makes it more entertaining because there are more mag changes? Because that's clearly what it is. It's because first and foremost, the bitch maracas are kind of annoying to hear all the time. Just shaking around, jiggling around. Secondly, with mid-capacity, it's a lower amount of rounds, so you can't fire as much as you want to per magazine. So you have to have your gear sorted in a certain way. Do you feel this is limiting? Do you feel that this is not appropriate for MILSIMs to require of the players?
Nope. Because I just on my person, the way I have everything set up for my plate carrier, I have more than enough mid caps, to handle a day's worth of MILSIMs. I just got one of those drop leg pouches with 4 more mags on that.
Right.
And that's completely optional. So it's like if I know I'm gonna be shooting a lot, then I might tag that along. When we did the training with Bubba, he had us when we were going through, he had us just put 30 BBs in the mid caps.
Yeah,
he didn't even let us do the 90 or 120 for some of the others. So
he wanted the real sim aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes even with those, I mean, I'll even just put 30 in. I mean, sometimes I'll go, like, we'll have a contact or whatever like that, but I don't see anyone.
Right. No, I mean, even for me, I've taken it where I even have 190 mid caps, and I'll only put 150 in there because spring tension's better, so it feeds better.
Exactly.
What about you? Because you like doing the Russian kits.
Yeah.
And I mean, only recently you got an M4, but
Right.
if you hadn't had that M4, you'd have to use your AK.
Yeah.
And mid caps for AKs are not as common. They've gotten a little better at it. Would that have affected your decision to go if you had your AK, but they required you?
Definitely not, because personally, I prefer mid caps. They're easier to manage. You don't have to keep winding it. It doesn't rattle and tattle. And personally, if you have the money to go to a MILSIM, you got the money to go out and buy yourself 5 mid caps.
Yeah, it's getting better because these days you can get pretty much a mid. If you should be trying to, the goal is to buy mid cap $10 per mag, if not a little cheaper.
Yeah,
$10 is very reasonable. Granted, if you're comparing it to real steel, I don't want to have the discussion because I'm playing a sport that is not actual target shooting with real firearms. I'm talking about airsoft.
Yeah.
If I want to talk about real steel, I'll talk real steel. I know plenty of shit. I'm talking about airsoft. You can shoot for $10 a mag. You can get them off the major sites like e-bike and Airsoft GI, and it shouldn't be a problem.
even Amazon.
$52.
Yeah.
Even Amazon's has them now. Like they have the Elite Force magazines that are supposed to be pretty decent.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, like those GMPs that I wanted to get.
Yeah.
You guys are using. They're getting down to like $9, $8 a mag on sale. Like I think it was $75 for 10.
I mean, they're always on sale too.
Yeah, they have them in stock because they're just good nice. But,
Yeah.
Next is FPS and joules. There's a difference in it. They look similar, but the difference comes down to the specific platform you're using. For recreational games, they'll actually have CQB set up so that you have an engagement limit that's different than for 400 FPS. Most MILSIMs, if not next to all of them, I've noticed, 400 FPS does give you the arm's length engagement because they want you to be able to reach out and touch somebody, but they still have the respect of, okay, if this was a real world scenario, you're not going to have to change your gun in combat because they got closer. So they're giving that leeway. And you're still signing consent. And if everybody has this mutual respect, everybody should use it. But have you guys run into any issues where you feel the FPS and joule limits have limited your ability to play the game? Where, like for you, Ethan, you use DMR.
Yeah.
For your Dragunov. We mentioned before with sniping versus DMR. Do you feel that it limits you as a player to have to do a certain joule limit / FPS limit on your guns in terms of the engagement distance?
I don't generally feel too limited on it. I can understand why, because, well, rule number 1 of airsoft, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
You don't want to hurt the other people because if you start hurting other people, nobody's going to want to play airsoft with you. And you're going to be sad and lonely. So, I've never really felt limited on it. Like, your gun's accuracy or your range isn't always tied to your joules. Because you can get some crazy great range at 1.5 joules.
Yeah, like we mentioned in the teching, barrel bucking and hot buck.
Exactly.
Is what creates distance and consistency.
Yep.
Any of those is garbage, you're not going to get anything, no matter how much FPS you shove through the gun.
Yep.
How about you, Tucker? You have 2 different M4s, one for considered outdoor and one indoor. Do you feel that's ever been unfair? Do you feel it's unfair that the 400 FPS gets the same engagement as the 350 FPS? Because you've played indoor airsoft, you've played rec, and you've played MILSIM. Have you seen something where you just like, I can see there's a problem here, or you don't feel it?
My play style, for the most part, my engagement distance, I've never had really an issue as far as those limitations. So, Yeah, the guns outdoor, the Crytek that I use, yeah, no issues with that. So, and also too, it goes back to just kind of the rules. Like, I think everyone should be kind of on the same page, and you really, I think it's just kind of, the player. Just because you have the gun with the highest FPS or highest this and that, if you're not in the right spot at the right time, then you're no good. So.
Lastly, on rules and regulations, I just want to touch on one aspect of this very controversial subject, the DMR controversy. I'm only going to touch on one aspect, even though this could be its own podcast. For DMRs, do you leave the debates and final say on the event or the people playing? What is your opinion on that? Do you feel it's the event's responsibility to define it, or do you feel it's the community's responsibility to define it? I feel, personally, I leave it to the event just because you need a final say, and at the end of the day, if people are going to get butthurt, oh well, there's not much you're going to be able to do about it, because you have to solve this issue of what are you going to do between 400 and 450 FPS, because there's a definite joule difference in the amount of energy being expressed. And to give that edge towards another weapon, but reduce it down to semi-auto only, I'm just curious. Do you feel it should be the event's responsibility or the community's responsibility to decide DMRs? Or do you feel the community's never going to figure it out because there's several thousands of people on the forum and several thousands of different opinions? What do you feel?
I think it needs to be events. Because it's like you got so many people and sometimes you got like 8 people in a room and you can't figure out what to do. So thousands of people on the forum trying to figure out what DMR should be. It doesn't make sense. So I think it should be up to the events. I think as far as when you start going over the rules and stuff like that and FPS, and, you do the safety speech and everything, that's where it needs to be made. So that, for that event, whether it's a MILSIM or Rec, everyone at the beginning of the day knows exactly what the rule is. So there's none of this, well, on this forum it showed me this or that, so just follow the rules.
Yeah, definitely up to the event, because the event managers are the ones fronting all of the cash for this event. So it should be up to them. They're the ones deciding the rules for everything else. And, community can't come to an agreement on it, but the person running the event can. And they can just put their foot down and say, this is how it is. Gotta conform to it, or you can't use this rule. Pretty simple.
Just a little bit of information. Wanted to give a few of the shout outs for the different companies that supply military simulation games. You got Lion Claws. You have Third Coast Airsoft. You have Centurion Airsoft. Another group, MSATO. You can look them up. I haven't been to one of their events yet, but I hear they do a good job. American MILSIM. MILSIM West, which is the most intense set of games you can play because they do 24-hour up to 48-hour events. And if you're wanting a taste of a real military experience, as close as you can get as a civilian, go to those events. They're very strict on gear, on what you wear, what you're using to play with, and how you conduct yourself.
MILSIM, what is Sleep West?
Yeah, it really is. And then finally, Black Sheep MILSIM. So next topic is going to be, what do we look for in a MILSIM for quality? Few of the topics here I have: the staffing, the price, the AO itself, distance for travel, organization, communication. Does anything pop out to you guys first that you think of? That's exactly what I'm looking for as a MILSIM. Are you looking for? What do you guys see right when you see those topics? Where you're just like, oh, that's the first one right there.
For me, as far as looking at these and just kind of which one, what I like to see if I'm looking at a MILSIM and whether or not I want to go to is running the event. okay, the scenarios, what's involved, duration, kind of goes into, because I would like to do a 24-hour. Like that one, that would definitely be something I would like to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I want to see not only that, but if they have a community that is following and growing, and you're looking at these events and all that type of stuff, there's a lot there. So it's always good to see that, because if you've got a lot of people doing it and it's fun to do, and obviously every group is they're going to have their promos and stuff like that, but really I just if everything too is running smoothly and you don't hear of like, oh, we sat in the truck for 3 hours, and that type of things. We did that on one of the events. It wasn't that fun, but if the staff and everything had to, it just works.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be moving and doing stuff, and it's going to be a good time. So definitely, I think the staff part of it is big.
Yeah, I know. For me, the first thing that I look at whenever I hear about a MILSIM is, where is it? Because I'm not huge on traveling massive distances. 13-hour drive. Yeah.
It was a good time.
It was.
Yeah. But it's a 13-hour drive.
Yeah.
But that's usually the first thing, because also the further you go, the more it's going to cost you overall. And the next thing would be the actual running of the event. What's the scenario? What's the rules? And who's running it? And after that, it's just, if I'm interested, okay, what's the price?
Well, he has his GMC now, so. Granted, I don't know if he'll want to take it.
What do you get?
You got a GMC pickup.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, it's better than having no car.
Yeah, that's way better than having no car.
But we have my Trailblazer.
We also have Titans trucks.
Yeah, we do.
That thing can handle.
I mean, he's busy with his Navy stuff, so it's hopefully we'll get another chance sometime soon. Yeah. What do you guys think when it comes to pricing? There's issue. You have to pay the registration fee just to go. Then you have your travel expenses, which includes food and gas. Then there's hotel versus camping. I'm not partial to either. I've done both. Doesn't bother me. Yeah. And then the actual food and water when you're doing the event, and then the essentials that you need, like BBs and green gas or CO2 to get pistols and stuff like that. Yeah. Do you guys actually set up a budget to do these events like you're going on a vacation, or do you make adjustments on your spending so that you can go? Do you feel it's better to have a lump sum and then decide how many events you're going to go to, or do you just take them as you can because it's easier that way?
What I've done with this is I really enjoy playing with the team. So I like to find out, with 2017, going through and figuring out how many people we're going to be able to do the events on. Mm-hmm. So if we can get a larger group of people to go to that one event, that's the one that I want to push for. Yeah. So that's the one that I want to push for. So as far as monies and stuff like that, I can, I'll plan it around that. Mm-hmm. Whereas if there's just, an event coming up in 3-4 weeks, but only 2 or 3 of us can go, if it falls on a day that I have off, then yeah, I'll go. But really, I like to see what everyone else is doing and see if we can't make a weekend out of it instead of just, picking one. I like to see where everyone's at. So as far as the money goes, then I can kind of adjust it that way, mm-hmm. and kind of figure out what I need to do, to join the group. That's how I've always looked at it.
How about you, since you're the stickler?
No, usually, yeah, I'm the same way. I'll probably not go to events by myself, very often. unless it's something that I really, really, really want to do.
Like that one event, that specialty Russian stuff, where everybody is decked out in like specifically Russian gear, so you can have the experience of
I don't even have
bad
specific.
accents.
I don't even have specifically Russian gear. I have what works for me. But no, I mean, like, But in terms of price, I'll try and figure out what's it all going to cost. Do I have that much saved up that I can just spend? And if the answer is yes, and we have a good number going, I'm down. But if it's one or two people going, maybe, and I may or may not have the money saved and put aside, chances are I might not go. So, yeah.
I also have here the AO. You guys do you feel that the AO is what it kind of makes up the core of the gameplay, or do you feel that the actual people running it are more important? Because sometimes, I mean, you can have the most amazing AO in the world. The staff, they're garbage. You'll never run into an enemy because they don't know how to organize themselves. On the flip side, you can have a blank field and have the time of your life because the staff just understand how to make a scenario. So what do you guys, what's the deciding factor for stuff you feel is interesting? When you look online, you look on Facebook, you see the events list of all the stuff that's happening, and you're like, you see the photos they post, and you're just like when we did the third coast for Broken Dagger, we were like, oh my, I hope we can get on top of that roof. And you could.
Lo and behold, yeah.
And then it was like, yeah, we're definitely going back here. I don't care which company is running here. this AO is just great.
Yeah.
If they block the roof off, I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry, but I got purple smoke from.
So what do you think? For an AO, like for interesting AOs, do you feel that you can have a purely outdoor MILSIM event and you'll still have the interest because there's a quality? Do you feel you need some semi-indoor, or maybe even, because like for that Packard plant, I consider that full indoor. I don't consider that an outdoor experience at all. That's
it's very urban.
Yeah, what's the military term for urban combat like that?
Clusterfuck?
No. No, not the style. It's what's it called? No, it's like MERP or something like that. It's I'm gonna kick myself. I'm gonna put the word up right now and then call myself an idiot. Anyway.
Right.
And then there's the account of weather. But personally, I love playing airsoft in the rain.
Is fantastic.
And even better than that, I like playing airsoft in the rain after 4 hours of sweating my ass off. I am the sweatiest on our entire team. It's been proven. Look at here's a volley of photos of me sweating and trying to play airsoft. I love it when it rains. I loved it when it happened. Well, it rained at Homeland, was it? When it rained and we did that one charge?
Oh, yeah. That was Homeland.
That
was crazy.
I was so happy when I heard the thunder. I was like, yes! And then
it was like Braveheart, because it was,
man.
they literally had the entire team like in the stationary area and it started storming. And we're all just like, oh, that's going to get crazy. And then, of course, it was just, this big go. And I started looking around and I see like just a ton of guys like over here, and I saw a ton of guys over here. And it was just, that was crazy day. Couldn't see hardly anything because of the fog and water everywhere. But that was fun.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, if it's a balance between AO and staff, it's always a balance between AO and staff. Like, honestly, I don't find a blank open field very engaging, even with the best staff in the world.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, like, it's a blank field. It's boring.
True.
But like purely outdoors, like woods or whatever else, yeah, I can go for that because there's plenty of room to maneuver. There's ways to sneak around.
It's Mount. It's a Mount facility.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the urban combat style of combat that they have to train for these days, because in the Middle East with all the cities they're doing, they created a new acronym
just for it.
Because everyone is being trained everybody was still being trained for Vietnam stuff.
Right.
And that was all outdoor in mud huts. Now it's mud huts
In the
and
desert.
going in the city. So they needed to figure a way to travel indoor, kick indoors, go upstairs,
Yeah.
get on roofs. So
Not get shot by the sniper on the opposing roof.
right.
But anyway, yeah, back to
Is that
the...
a shot at my Battlefield 4 gameplay?
It may or may not have been. I will
It is
not confirm or deny your suspicions.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So it's definitely got to be a mixture of the two. It can't be one way or the other. But if the AO looks amazing, but the gameplay is... The objectives are literally just nothing.
Mhm.
That's also incredibly boring.
Yeah.
And you don't want to play like that. Like, you can still make your own experience, but it's not going to be as good as having staff who are on point and an AO that's alright, but serviceable enough to be engaging. And weather, I do camping, I do winter camping, I've got the gear for playing in the rain. I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I think it adds to the experience.
Oh, it absolutely
It's
does.
like when you have a hot day and it just does that little bit of rain, even though your goggles are going to crap, the fog that shows up on the field and you can't see 10 feet in front of you, so you don't even know if the enemy team is in that broken down building right there.
Yeah, you gotta use all of your senses. You gotta listen.
Yeah,
You gotta hope for the best.
and comms are already hell. So,
Right.
So nobody knows where anybody is.
And then friendly fire starts breaking out, grenades thrown through doorways, everybody dying, and it's wonderful.
It's awesome. Another aspect for a quality MILSIM is the organization of how they run their events, specifically the op board, the comms list, and then their rules and regulations. Most if not all those companies that I listed beforehand all have their own individual websites, and they all have their rules and regulations posted. Some of them modify them year by year just based off of how the community's running. So grenade rules typically will change every now and again. And then your jewel limits, because they've been floating how do we want to run these events and create a more competitive play. If you're going to a MILSIM, you need to make sure you get the op board. That lists off all the important information about what you're going to be doing, where you need to go, and who you need to talk to if you have any more questions. And most of those people don't want to talk to you because you should have read the op board. And you'll hear that every time you go out there. It's pretty dang hilarious. You'll hear people laugh because they'll see the nervous ones, not sure what to do because they didn't read the freaking op board.
And for those of you who don't know what an op board is,
oh, I know. I listed off all the key information.
right? It's basically the big list of things that tell you what's going on, how it's being run, what the objectives are, and so forth.
Yeah. Along with that, they also give a comms list. Going to MILSIMs, it's almost required to carry a radio on you these days. You can't really run without one because most of these are objective based. So you have commanding officers that are organizing each side in a specific way, taking over specific key positions, and communications is the best way to prevent friendly fire outside of trigger control. And unless you have perfect trigger control, which I doubt, have a radio on you. Plus, it helps relay information so you can get more help if you need more help. Yeah. Airstrikes are really fun.
Especially when you're sitting up on top of a building.
Yeah, no, that was really fun and cool for you to do.
Oh, I know.
Me, I was already half dead when we got there, so I'm surprised it lasted a day and sort of a half.
Right.
And then finally, the aspect of the MILSIM is communication. A lot of these groups, even though they're run by older individuals, usually people in their mid-40s, because a lot of them are veterans, they're starting to accept that Facebook is a platform in which you can convey a lot of information a lot better than your own independent site, email lists, and things like that. You'll still have to be on email lists, but don't be scared of Facebook. Anybody who's going to hack you already can. Now you're paranoid. Get on Facebook, get on their pages, like the page so that you get the updates, and most of the time after you've signed up, you can also get onto your team's page for that specific event too. So you guys can plan ahead. If people need rides, if people need to know who is in charge of each squad, who's the commanding officer, who's the XO. These are all really important things you gotta study ahead of time, or you're gonna just look like a dumbass. Outside of that, I have a couple questions that I wanted to get some answers from you guys. First question is, what could make recreational games more interesting to MILSIM players to keep the sport growing? Some people who join MILSIM end up abandoning recreational games because they don't feel that rec games have any worth to them anymore, because so many of them are force on force team deathmatch. They're more catered towards the video game aspect, and they don't feel the realism. What do you feel are adjustments to rec games that could make MILSIM players come back to rec games to keep the sport growing? Because rec games is what keeps the sport growing.
Yeah.
MILSIMs very, very minutely affect the airsoft industry. Only recently has the airsoft industry started making functioning props even to make gameplay diverse. And even then, it's being bought by the rec people, not the MILSIM people.
Yeah.
So what do you guys feel could change in rec games that could bring back some MILSIMers?
For me, it's I love variety in the type of games that we play. I mean, team deathmatch is fun, chaos is fun, capture the flag is fun, but it's not fun all the time when it's the only thing you're doing. Variety is the spice of life. So having different types of games to play is definitely a good way to get them back, and even looking towards what MILSIMs do and organizing a simpler version of it would be a step in the right direction as well.
Would you say that also stems into objective-based gameplay?
Absolutely.
Because, like, for us at West Michigan Airsoft, I've done my hardest to create scenario-based missions so that there's still force on force, but you can still have attack and defense, but add a twist to it. It doesn't have to be just throw a bunch of bodies and another set of bodies, and whichever one wins at the end is the winner. You can have objective based, you can have VIPs, you can have specific props that are important that need to be collected in order to achieve something. And even then, like, I'll put on a twist where not only do you have to get to point B and retrieve something, you need to get to point C for an extraction to count for your win. You don't just pick something up and, we won.
Right.
Like a soccer game or something.
My personal favorite was get to the smoke grenade, read the French instructions, and then rip it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was my version of prepping a grenade.
Yeah.
Or prepping an explosive device.
Yeah, it's pretty great, because even though it seemed like one team had it for the longest time, you couldn't read at all.
No, it was very stale, and you got through 3 pages. Meanwhile, other team gets it. They have a guy who can read French,
and it's
and
done
he
on the
zipped
inside
through
of
it in under 30 seconds, and they won the game.
Yeah.
I did not expect somebody to know French. That was funny. So I feel personally, you can just make more out of the games that we have. Just give it the extra little twist. What about you, Tucker? Can you think of anything that you know is missing from rec games that you feel is acceptable that MILSIMers do? Like smoke grenades, like pea grenades, things like that. I mean, there's so many different things, like small squad-based things versus a large force. What can you think of that you would like to see in a rec game?
What I see too is that at these MILSIMs, you see all these guys decked out. They line up to do, room clearing and all this other stuff. They make all this noise so everyone knows they're coming. But, doing rec games, I mean, where you can just focus on those small team-based squad things. You don't have to worry about 100 other people and what everything else is going around. So it can be a lot more focused. So as a MILSIMer, you're working on essentially a technique that is used a lot, that is obviously used in the MILSIMs, but you're doing it at a rec game, and you have, I guess, kind of limitations, because if it's the 4 of you and you guys have to work together. You can't be more than 10 feet apart. You know, something like that. Just, you know, mixing up the rules. Or even if it's a big outdoor field, everyone has LMGs.
Right.
And just lay it out, you know. And who wouldn't have fun with that?
Right.
So it's just, you got to realize, you know, if you're not having fun at the end, whether it's a MILSIM or a rec game, then don't play.
Yeah.
You know, go out there and have fun, whatever the game mode is. It's just, that's what it's there for. That's why we do it.
And on top of that, like, I know with NIMS, it was a lot of fun to take people who've never been to MILSIMs, they've never really done any training or anything like that, take them, show them the basics, and then work with them to become better at room clearing, hallway advancing, peels, stuff like that. And they have a lot of fun with it too. I know we got a lot of positive feedback when we just took like half the day and just did like little training exercises with people. They loved it.
There's so many times where it's funny where I'll clear a room with kids who are like 12, 13 years old. I got 2 or 3 of them stacking up on a room behind me. I might look ridiculous on the video, but we cleared the room.
That's right.
All it takes is just a little concentration and just a few practice runs. I mean, sure, you're not going to be anywhere near as good as a properly trained military guy. But when it comes to airsoft, where everybody's using the same drastically inaccurate guns, because they are comparatively to a real steel gun, every bit counts.
Well, I mean, the range of the M4s is about the same, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
The effective range.
You can find Ethan's Facebook at Ethan.
Joke's on you, it's private.
And send him all of your hate comments about why he just shat on the M4. I got my last question for this topic. Are recreational games still a good first step into airsoft, or do you feel any player is possibly able to jump right into MILSIM? Including people with proper training, even like our friend Josh. He did police academy. He has some form of formal training. Kyle, he is in National Guard active. He's actively in National Guard work currently. He goes to training pretty much monthly, if not every other week, doing stuff with his military stuff on top of his other personal stuff he likes to do. Do you feel there's any individual that could possibly jump right into MILSIM?
Could they? Yes. Should they? Maybe not necessarily. Because it might end up that they just spent, I don't know, $1,600 on gears and a gun. And then they find out that they don't even really enjoy airsoft. Mm-hmm. So I'd say if you've never done it before, but you'd like to know what it's about, get a gun, rent a gun, go play a rec game or two. If you like it, go for it. But definitely learning the rules and the limitations of airsoft before you jump into a MILSIM is probably a wise choice.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tom?
Same. I think if you have the military background, you're obviously going to want to move more towards the MILSIM.
Yeah.
If you haven't done it at all, I think a rec game would be better starting out. So that figure out if you like it, or if you like it, but then also too, that's the rec games too are good to figure out what part of airsoft you like, whether it's being rifle, DMR, or sniper, or whichever.
Yeah.
Rec games are generally that's where you kind of figure that out. So doing stuff like that before MILSIM would probably save yourself a lot of money too.
Oh yeah.
There's a former Army infantry guy that we know. He used to run support gunner, but he's very small. And though as much as he loved it in the real military, he didn't like wasting time on airsoft doing it more. So
yeah,
the second he's like, you know what, M4 is good enough, and just switched over. And he's had tons of fun with it. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting each person's reaction to it, because a lot of guys once they get out of the military or they've been out for a long time, they're like, yeah, I want to be exactly where I was back then. And then they're like, why was I carrying around a 20-pound gun when I could be carrying around a 6-pound?
Exactly.
Well, I think that'll do it for this episode. You can find us on Facebook at Cerberus Tactical Airsoft. Even though the season's over currently for West Michigan Airsoft, you'll find us back up in the spring when it warms up here. It's Michigan, so it'll take a bit to warm up and dry out, but just check that also out, West Michigan Airsoft on Facebook, and there'll be a tentative calendar posted. I want to say March is usually the best time for when it's going to be posted. And then check out our channel for the rest of the videos that I like to post up. Hopefully we'll be out in a MILSIM in the next couple months because there's some in other states that have better weather than we have in Michigan. So check us out on the Cerberus page for where we're going to be heading out. So thanks for listening, guys. That was perfect.
Cool. Great time.
He's been drinking.